time for Stream Dreamin'. Welcome back to Stream Dreamin', everyone. I'm glad you're here. Like many of you, I'm rather partial to my Basecamp. In fact, the more time I spend with it, the more I like it. Which got me thinking. Every time I use it, I discover something about it that I want to change. Now, saying that out loud now, it sounds like two incompatible ideals or a nonsensical conclusion. Only it's not. The Basecamp is highly customizable, and every time I change something, I make it a little better for me. And I love that aspect of it. In fact, I really like that. It might be my favorite aspect of the Basecamp. What I don't like is the lack of storage space. But here again, I need to be specific. The Basecamp has plenty of storage space, a remarkable amount of storage space for a 20-foot trailer. It's just not configured for my needs, so I'm going to change that. Now, this need started with a quest to acquire the best outdoor food prep table on the market. By the way, outdoor cooking is a passion of mine, something I really enjoy, and one of the big appeals to having a Basecamp. In fact, I'll be doing some outdoor cooking videos soon, along with some gear reviews, which is a nice way to say, if you haven't already subscribed, now would be the ideal time to correct that oversight. Anyway, I spent months trying out tables and fretting about the impracticality of each one I tested. Too complex to fold, too wobbly, too short, the list goes on and on and on. Anyway, the REI food prep table checked all of my boxes, except the folded size left it too wide to slide under the bed or to store up front, which meant I'd have to haul it on top of my bed. That's not my first choice, but that's the only option I had. At least that's the only option I thought I had. Then the need to solve this storage dilemma heated up. I got the hots for a Zamp portable solar panel setup. In short, I doubled down on a problem for which I had no immediate solution. And then there's Sean's first rule of base camping, which is, if it doesn't fit in the Basecamp, it isn't going. But as the old adage goes, necessity is the mother of all invention, which got me looking at the center table posts that support the bed. Take those posts out, and all my storage problems go away. Then that line from the Airstream video slapped me square in the face. I will never set up a table in the rear. I'll never set up a rear lounge or use that space for guests, because that's not how I use my Basecamp. I needed a different option. So I designed an aluminum ladder of sorts that spanned the gap between the storage box heater and the heater on the other side to support the bed. It was gorgeous. I mean, a work of art. And the bid to build it was equally impressive, a little over $700. So I simplified it and got the price down to $400. Still a lot more than I wanted to spend, so I called my engineer buddy Rich. After a lot of back and forth, we came up with a simple, elegant solution. Best of all, I bought all the materials for about $100, then spent a very pleasant Saturday morning adapting the space to better suit my needs. Here's what I did. All right, so we need to remove the center columns. To do that, we need to span that area and support the bed. So I'm going to use aluminum tubing. Now notice the gap though between that tubing and the tabletop. At this point, I don't understand why there is that gap, why that table is 1/4 of an inch short. I honestly thought it was just Airstream being lazy, but it's not. There is a reason for that. But here, I use the tubing to make my marks for the cutout, and then I just use my jigsaw to cut the material out. It's pretty straightforward. You could use a coping saw as well to do this. It'll just take you a little longer. Cut, boom. All right, square things up. Put the tubing in there. Yeah, that's nice and flush. Put the other tube in. Boom. Now, close the lid. And surprise. See how that backboard popped up? Yeah, it's not supposed to do that. That's not ideal. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm about to figure that out. So I cut the Velcro to remove that, thinking that might be it. And I pull out one screw. Now notice those screws on this side of the hinge are a round-headed screw. So when you locate your supports, make sure they're not in the way of one of those screws, or you'll have to do what I did. All right, look at this. We push down on that and it pops up. But why? It should be clearing. I mean, it's flush. I mean, those tubes are flush with the top of it. I mean, smooth, like no bumps, no recesses. It's really a nice fit. Well, here's the culprit right here. It's this hinge. Look at the design. That hinge drops that side down. It looks like about 1/8 of an inch, but it's not. It's almost 1/4 of an inch. So we've got to make those cutouts a little bit deeper to accommodate this. Now it's pretty easy. We just have to cut a little bit more material out. Now at this point, I think it's 1/8 of an inch. So I'm starting small. Remember, you can cut a little bit out and then cut a little bit more out. But if you cut a lot out and you only need it a little bit, that can be an issue. If you cut this too deep, you can build it up with a piece of wood. It's not that big a deal. But look at that. Okay, that's a little bit closer. I'm going to take a little bit more material off and then fit it again. Here we go. Boom, tap. Look how deep that recess is. Okay, we're pretty close there. Close enough that I'm going to do the next one and then fit both. Okay, here's the important part. There's a little bit of twist in this wood. It's okay because it's going to get mashed down under weight, but don't get confused by that. If it doesn't push the backside up, you're okay. All right, so now we've got these fit and they look great. But you notice how I had to remove that screw? I've got to replace that with a flat-headed screw instead of the round-headed screw. And if you just locate your support in the right place, you won't have to do that. I didn't realize those were round-headed when I started this. Should have, but I didn't. All right, I've decided I'm going to replace or just take them both out. I was just going to take the front out, but I'm happy enough with this project. I'm going to take both tables out and add 2 more slats. Now, I don't want water, especially I don't want water to get underneath the vinyl flooring. I don't want water between the vinyl flooring and the plywood subfloor. Even if you have one of the new composite floors, you don't want water in there because you get water in there, you're going to get mold, and you don't want that. So put some silicone caulk in there or something else. All right, now we've got one other issue, and that is these slats. There's nothing to keep them from sliding out of position. They're not going to pop out of position, but they can slide as you go around corners and then fall to the floor. You go back to climb in your bed and break all of the plywood. Would not be ideal. So to get around that, I'm drilling a hole and then I'm tapping it for a 1024 thread, and I've got some little Allen key bolts that I'm going to put in through the top. So I believe this was a 5/32 diameter hole, and then the 1024 tap. Just testing the threads there. Yep, goes right through. Perfect. I'll flip this over, and then this is a 5/16 drill bit. Drill that hole. And now I can just put the bolt on the Allen key, take it right through the top, into my hole, thread it in, and shazam, look at that, right out the other side. What this does is this is kind of a locating pin. It'll stick out about 3/8 of an inch, and so I'll drill a 3/8 inch hole into that plywood. I'll show you that in just a minute. And that will keep these from sliding, and you only need to do one side. So I have my center line mark. I'm going to put that in the center of the plywood, give it a tap, 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 and then that marks the plywood. Then I can drill my hole. Easy peasy. Here we go. For real this time. There we go. Perfect. Now I'll put that into place. Now you'll notice that I cut this cutout 4 inches bigger than I needed. So that aluminum stock is 2 inches wide. I cut this 6 inches because there's 2 existing cutouts, this one and that one, and we're putting a 1 by 2 inch aluminum stock in each one of those. In other words, we're obstructing that by 4 linear inches. And in case there's some science to the venting or the size of these vents, I've replaced that opening on the backside. Does that make sense? So if I had 24 inches between these two, I've filled 4 with the new aluminum stock. I've blocked that off so the airflow is not going to go through there. That's not what we want to do. So I created an additional 4 linear inches of vent on the backside. Now everything stays the same. Okay, I'm just going to show you this one because they're all the same. But you just put it into place, tap, 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 and voila. Now it's not going anywhere. It's not, at least it's not sliding side to side, and it's not going to pop up because when it's in the closed position, there's weight on top of it. There you go. Now all 4 are in place. All right, a quick view of the underside. Look, clear span. Now you can slide whatever you want under there. Easy peasy. Okay, if you decide to do this project, budget about 2 hours. Make sure you have all the materials that you need in place, and you'll enjoy the morning. As always, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Share it with somebody. Subscribe. Do all 3. I like having you around. Until next time, make it an adventure.